Okay, ist gut.
Laisse-moi qu'on le dise. Oui, ici. Est-ce qu'on pourrait avoir une table, s'il vous plaît, pour mettre les livres?
Du musst den Türsummer drücken.
And my father was sitting around making spaghetti, trying to talk with me about the meaning of life, whatever there is. And, wow, strange.
So that was your father?
Yeah, but now he's home.
So, but how was the new wife?
Very Russian, very skinny, very blonde.
May I offer the ladies a glass of champagne?
I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them go their way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a make it easier. Let the children's laughter.
Hallo?
Ich war noch ein Bier trinken.
Okay.
Weitergehen?
Ja. Hallo.
Oh. Hallo?
Ja.
Okay. Happy Birthday.
Eine Kugel kam geflogen. Gilt sie mir oder gilt sie dir? Ihn hat es weggerissen. Er liegt vor meinen Füßen, als wär's ein Stück von mir. Als wär's ein Stück von mir. Will mir die Hand noch reichen, derweil ich eben lag. Kann dir die Hand nicht geben, bleib du im ewigen Leben, mein guter Kamerad.
Voir un petit moment. Bah oui, c'est possible. Je réserve 15 euros. C'est le vent. Oui. Merci. À vous aussi. Bonne journée. Au revoir. Au revoir. Bonjour madame, vous désirez?
Do you speak English or German?
A little.
I took a reservation in the fridge.
Merci. Fritsch. Ah oui.
But I would like to go to Romy Schneider's room, please. Romy? Romy, ich bin da. Romy?
Lili?
Du, schlaf weiter. Ich suche mein Zimmer und dann komme ich später wieder.
Nein, 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 komm rein. Hilfe. Wie schön, dass du da bist.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Hallo.
Hallo.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Wat is er kinderlijk? Hey, sehr schön.
Entschuldigt, relativ.
Good Shabbos.
Danke.
Danke, good Shabbos.
Wie heißt dich?
Kennst du?
40 nach geht?
Ich weiß nicht. Es gewesen okay, wenn ich bin gegangen in Ski.
Sie sagen, ich habe es mit dem Mädel nicht so.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Maria Schrader and I was invited to join you today. Unfortunately, I had to cancel my travel. I'm in New York and about to finish my current film. We have 1 week left. We are working through the nights, through the weekends. That's just how it is. So I'm sad to not be able to be there, And at the same time, I'm very happy for all of you to meet my dear friend and most wonderful collaborator, Silke Fischer, today, who I have met in 2015 on our first project. We've worked together twice. The first film is called Stefan Zweig, Farewell to Europe, a period film about European exile, which I had the pleasure to screen at the Villa Aurora in 2018 when I was a fellow resident myself. I would say Silke and I share memorable adventures doing this film, which was shot on a very remote island, African island called Sao Tome, where Silke was recreating historic Brazilian exteriors, interiors of the year 1942. And I'm sure she will tell you a little bit about it. In 2019, we took off again and traveled to New York to research a community in Williamsburg for our next project, the miniseries Unorthodox, which we shot the same year. And I remember very well one day being out at the streets there, how intimidated I was by the various challenges of this particular project, portraying a community which was unknown to me, which is so hard to get to know from the inside, working with actors who, at least most of them, were not familiar with the specificities of the life inside a community like that. And on top of everything, building, creating all Williamsburg interiors in Berlin. So there was this moment in which I considered to just go back to Berlin and not do it. And then I looked at the person next to me, and I remember very well, I thought, maybe with her it's possible. And Silke made it happen. She surprised me day by day, and I'm sure she will tell you about the making of Unorthodox, and all I have left to say is she became my most trusted collaborator. Yeah, that's just what it is. I really admire her work. I consider her the most exciting production designer in Germany. I'm always interested how she looks at the world. I'm impressed by her dedication and amount of research and her free mind and her encouragement. She was truly and is truly a partner in crime, and I would call her my own personal taste police. So, liebe Silke, ich hoffe, dich sehr bald zu sehen. Liebe Friedel, thank you again very much for the invitation. I wish you all a wonderful hour or 1.5 hours, and all of you a great day, great Sunday. I hope to see the Villa Aurora again soon, and I'm sure I will. So, have a great day and goodbye.
Hello everybody, I'm very happy that you are all here with me and share with me this Michael Ballhaus award, and that I can do it with you, because I'm not so used to be, the production designer is not so used to be in the center, so it's good that we are all together in this now. That's also why I have prepared this presentation, because for me it's easier, as some of you might already have seen the last time, if there are some images I can talk with. So, okay, let's start. This is, often people ask me, what really is the work of a production designer? And I think this definition, production design, is the creation and organization of the physical world surrounding a film story. It was made by David Selznick, who was the producer of Sam Menzies, of Gone by the Wind in 1939. And he invented this title for Sam Menzies, the production designer. Before, there was no expression for it. And it was because it was all the world beside the actors who was created by the designer, so production design, that's where it comes from. And this is the real amazing thing about this job, that you can really create a world. It has to be very different worlds, but it has to be authentic and true in its own rules and system. And so this is where it starts. This is one of my very first films. It's my graduation film. That's why it's a little bit fluid. It's on 60 millimeters. And it was called Weltküche, World Kitchen, and it was about a self-service restaurant where you can take in all the other cultures of the world by just eating them. This is now a very daily concept. Everywhere, in every street food car, you can get every food from the world. But when I just finished art school, this was in the beginning of the 90s, it was not so usual. So we built it. And yeah, this is how I started. I studied film with everything, with doing the camera, writing and directing, and also doing sound at the art school. So this is my base by making films. And this is more pictures of this World Kitchen, of this self-service restaurant. And there were little clips in between where some cooks show how this food is produced. And you see, it's always me with their partner, at this time, Maria Schrader. We were a couple of artists. And so I was also an actor in there. This is World Kitchen. And then I did other films. This is Buy One, Get One Free, a short film. It's about a group of women meeting on a Tupperware party, but there are no plastic bowls sold, but weapons. It's a satire about self-protection, gated communities, and so on. Yeah. And I also did documentary about architecture. This is Putzen in Paris, Cleaning Paris. It's about the modern architecture in Paris, but viewed by the cleaning teams with a very special perspective. And this was one of my last films I did by my own. Das Haus denkt, es brennt. The house thinks it's on fire. It's about a group of young people who are unemployed, and that's why they found a startup to an agency for jobs. But the only job they finally provide is kind of a stumbling block. This is very dark, but you see these are people in a kind of protection gear lying around and making other people fall about them, think about, stop. It's also kind of satire. But this was, all these films couldn't make me a living, so I had to look for another possibility. And just in the 90s, when I came out of art school, it was a big time, the golden age for the commercials, and also in the city of Hamburg, where I'm from. And so I just fell into this period. And here are some pictures of some of these clips. And it was a very good school for me, because I had some budget to work on, and you have to be very fast, very quick. That was not really, I was not used to it in art school. So things I've done in years before, now I had to do in weeks or days. And it was also a more stylish world that you can create there, because we went to studio. Mostly all of this is made in a studio. This was the first time I did that. It was really my other art school, film school. But I did it for nearly 7 or 10 years, but then it was not enough. It was also the pressure gets more and more. There was less money, and the things were not like these. These were all image films, but now it was more really production commercials. So I had to stop with that. And so luckily, there was a new generation of film students at my art school, and they really had the idea to make movies for the cinema. Me, I was more for experimental gallery scenes, but they really want to make their own way into the cinema, and they really created a new school. It was a so-called Berlin school, and this is my first feature film I did, Bungalow, of Uli Köhler, and he was also a fellow of Villa Aurora a couple of years ago. And it's really this kind of cinema, it's really based on the region, on the territory, on the landscape where it's filmed. So I had to start with another work where you really look for locations that will work, because you have a long travelings without cuts in it. You have really that has to fit in. And so I spent for this one, I spent half a year just for looking for the locations in Germany. And this is a beauty in these films. I did another one with Ulrich Köhler, Windows on Monday, and this is taking part in a sport hotel. And so this was the inauguration day after renovation of the sport hotel. And as we had very little money, I was looking for a simple but chic method to make it clear that it's innovation of this. And so I simply wrapped the whole hotel in this red ribbon with a butterfly. It was simple, but it was very, on the same way, impressive. That's Windows on Monday. Okay, another feature film, Summer '04. This was taken part in northern Germany, and we really didn't know how to make it look like summer in northern Germany. So we just said, okay, a landscape doesn't have to be always looking like its own. So we tried to change it looking like France. And we put portable fake pools in the landscape. We put everywhere white, red, and blue little flags, and we make it really looking like summer. And on the same way, because this is a kind of a drama, and we wanted to, this prehistorical history of northern Germany. It's the Paläontological. There you see a mummy there, over there. We tried to make it like volcanoes. It comes out everywhere. So this was our mix of France and the prehistorical. This is a thing that the production design can always add something new to the script. It doesn't have to be, because there's so much, we have the whole picture, we have the whole background, we can tell so more stories than there are in the script. And it's not, if it's not too important, it has to be subtle, but it is in your mind to give the backgrounds of the story. A film about two architects in the beginning of the years of 2000, the 0 years in Berlin. They are in a crisis, and so we decided to show their crisis. We only show new buildings that are newer than the 2000, so that they can see everybody else is working, make new buildings, only them, they are out of it. So we really shooted the whole film in Berlin only with new buildings. It's not so easy because you have the whole history of the buildings of the 40s and the buildings of the GDR system, but we really avoided it and showed another Berlin. And this is the first film I did with Marin Ade, Alle anderen, everyone else. Marin also was a fellow of Villa Aurora. There are a lot of my collaborators who have been here. And this is about a young couple on their first vacation in a holiday home of their parents on Sardinia. And it's a story of this beginnings of a love story, but it shows that you are never alone. You have all your history, your parents' histories, everything around you is always going with you. So you cannot act by your own. And we wanted to support that. So we put everywhere things with eyes in the decoration. Everybody, there are little eyes watching the couple everywhere. You see, even there, this is a big piece of cork and a little bowl there, the red bowl with the teeth in it, and there were also eyes upon. This was on the fireplace everywhere was something like what had eyes that was watching them. So it's with a lot of animals, I have to say, and plants with eyes in it. Oh, this is a little bit dark. This is Dutschke. It's a film about I don't know if you know Dutschke. He was the leader of the German students movement, and it was taking place in the 60s and 70s. And as we wanted to show that there was no place before the students went on the street and fought for their rights. So we made it, everything was very small. They had not really a place to go out, to study, to party, to think about their lives. And that it's mirroring in the production design. And this is the first film I did with the Australian director, Kate Shortland, and it's Lore. It's also taking place at the end of the Second World War, and it's a story of 5 kids. They had to go through Germany to look for their grandmother because their parents were interned. They had been big Nazis, so the Americans interned them, and so the kids were by their own. And this was interesting. This was a new view Kate brought into this story. She wanted to look for the horror in the middle of the beauty. It was a rather grim and kind of that she was interested in the Holocaust in Germany. So this was really interesting to work on something with the people from a foreigner who really had another view on it. And she really made a lot of other films since then. And the last film, I don't know if you have seen it, she really changed. She's now making The Black Widow, the Marvel series with Scarlett Johansson. And this was another sport hotel, but this time in Russia, in Murmansk. And as I couldn't prepare it from Germany, this is really, we worked with an old-fashioned model, not digital, to really imagine it. And then we went there, and it was a crazy story because an oligarch wants to make a film there that takes part in the Antarctic, and we had to build artificial icebergs in the northern part of Russia. But it was not an easy production because we were the only co-production that was made so far with Russian support, and we were not really agreeing about making things happen. But anyway, this is Tony Erdmann. Maybe, this was presented here for the Oscar nominations. This was the second film with Maren, and Maren, she is preparing everything. She's not, you have to think about everything before you shoot. And so I went with her to Bucharest, where the film was shooted 3 years before, just to decide if it's the right city for the story. And then the next year, because there is this phantom, this monster in there, the cookery from Bulgaria. And so we ordered, 10 cookery costumes, and we had to put them on ourselves, the team, me or the production, or the executive producer, just to see if this works. In a hotel, in a park, you see the picture right below. This is 1 year before the shooting. We went to a park with this figure there, the cookery. On the left, it's Maren, and there's a costume designer. She has to replace the main actress, and we just taking pictures to see if this might work. And the police came by, and they didn't recognize us. They just it was. And then in the end, the cookery was also on the red carpet in Cannes. And this is, I put the wrong title, I see. She said farewell to Europe, Maria. Okay, this is the first film I did with Maria Schrader, and this was also, we shooted every place of the journey of the last month and year of Stefan Zweig, not where it happened. It was the eastern town of Halle, where we shooted New York. You see here, we were in an old cinema to build New York, and then we went to Sao Tome to rebuild Brazil. And that's why and for me it was really difficult, because I have never been to New York before at this time. And I didn't know how private apartments look. And it was very exciting when the first American actor entered the studio and he said, "Oh, it looks like home." I was so relieved. But for Unorthodox, that's why what Maria told you before, I really insisted on going to New York to have a look at it before I rebuild it again. This is another studio build that was not shooted where it takes place. We went to Iraq, and then we had to rebuild it, the interior in Cologne. It's the Milan Protocol, about a kidnapping story in Iraq. And this is also what Thomas mentioned, the 3 Days in Quiberon by Emily Atef. And this was my second black and white film, and in taking part in the 80s, 70s, 80s, about Romy Schneider, the actress. And this was very interesting because the first black and white film I did, I built it already the decoration in a gray palette, in a black and white palette. And this time, with the new iPhones, you can easily switch between color and black and white. So we everything, how it looks in black and white. And finally, we find out white is not the best white. Pink is the best white. And red or blue is a better black than, or dark green is a better black than black. And gray is very sluggy, or it's not. So, and finally, it gets this color palette you see in this hotel room on the left side. And it was really interesting because I loved so much the colors. And I continued with this method to always check the colors in black and white, because you find out something very special that you would never have thought about it before. And this is again a film with Uli Köhler, who did the first one, Bungalow. And this is in my room about the end of the world. And it's only one man survived, and he finally decided, first he wanted to suicide himself, but then he decided to go to his hometown, but into a very small valley, and to be kind of Robinson. And so to show that everything else was left by the people, we had to convince the whole the inhabitants of a city, of a street, not to cut their lawn and to do nothing for one period, just to have this impression. Yeah, this is a very small film, Pelican Blood. Here I put some moods in it because it's a kind of mystical story, and it was about a horse whisperer. This is Nina Hoss in the middle. Oh, there's one picture has gone. The most important. I don't know where it's lost. It was in the middle because we found a horse who had exactly the same coiffure, haircut like Nina Hoss. And we thought, this is the most, we can put everything, the message of the film in hair. So it's everywhere. Yeah, but I'm sorry. This is one film we did, the first film we did during the pandemic. And it was not so easy. It's Ecocide by Andres Feil, and it's kind of science fiction in the next 10 years or 2030, and all the presidents of the big countries are accused of there's the International Court of Environment, and they are all are accused of And the only one who is there is Angela Merkel. And so we looked for a very simple solution, and we found these Buckminster Fuller domes that we put, because the normal court in Den Haag is already underwater in the story. So it's just a makeshift courtyard, and we make it with this dome, and then with these carton tubes. And I don't know, there is a kind of architecture of Shigeru Ban for making makeshift shelters, and so that's what we put in there. And this gets us this simplicity in the picture. Okay, and then it's also, I started my first series. It's Unorthodox with Maria, as she told it. Here it's also one of the mood boards, and this is Maria. She was a director, but one of the most important person was the showrunner, Anna Winger, and there's another showrunner also here, in Alexa Karolinski. I didn't mention you. She wrote and still developed the serial with Anna. There, she is behind the camera. And these were some research pictures we did on our first travel. This is where we first met. And this is a famous wedding that we put into a wedding hall, a Turkish wedding hall in Berlin. And we made this decoration. And I had the chance to make it with my students, because since 4 years I'm teaching production design in Zurich at art school. And so you see, I have some little number of students. It's in Switzerland, it's a small country. At this time I had only 3. And this is the last thing I worked on. You might have seen it last time when you've been on the Meet the Artist. It's another series with Anna Winger, Transatlantic. It's about Variant Fry and the Emergency Rescue Committee who went to Europe in 1940 to Marseille and to get the refugees, the artists and the writers and the intellectuals out. And this was also where Feuchtwanger, he was brought and saved by Variant Fry. And as I already showed, I think 200 pictures last time, this time I only put this, because these were all these artists, Max Ernst and Duchamp and also Breton and his wife Jacqueline Lambert, and we had to replace it with other work because we cannot show it. You don't have the rights and you have to tell another story. And this was, I think, one of the most fun things I did in the last years, because there was an artist from New York, Stephanie Snyder, and me. We produced all this. I was really back to my roots of art school by painting and doing collage, and this was very grateful. Okay, that is so far. And now it goes on.
Danke, Silke. I think that gave us a good idea of the practical vision Silke has and all the great production designs she brought to some of the most groundbreaking films from Germany. Just a few questions about your work. You said you went to art school and you also teach at art school in Zurich, which I'm wondering, what is the difference between a production designer who went to art school and an interior designer who creates spaces?
I think maybe it's even more important that I went to art school. That's my base, yes. And I studied really, I did fine arts and painting and in the beginning, but then I switched to the film department, and this is really the most important base that I have, because I know it's not interior design, that it's not a real room that I create, it's a cinematic room. And so it doesn't exist till the film is shown on the screen. It needs the editing, the sound, and yes, for sure, the shooting and the actors in it and the story, and all this makes this room. So it's not, I have to think about all of this every minute while I'm working on the decoration.
When we talked yesterday, we talked about rooms, and you mentioned that on some projects you work on computer-generated rooms also, but about the difference when you walk on a set, when you walk in a room, and that the room is almost like a character and kind of can either talk to you or can almost repel. Can you talk a little bit about that also?
Yes, I think when you go into a room and you are really in it, there's a kind of atmosphere, an aura, or how do you say it in English?
Aura, yeah.
Yeah. And that you can't imagine in digital, but you are working on a digital screen. And so, and that's what you found, you can improvise with it. And that is where you can find out something new. And I think it's really difficult not to reproduce yourself when you are working on a digital layer. I didn't find out so far how you can really get further on with this method, but I'm working on it.
You worked with some really amazing German directors. I'm just wondering, how is the workflow? When do you come on board? Is it at script phase? And do directors like Emily or Maria, do they have a clear idea what they want? Do you go together on location scouting? You mentioned you went to Bucharest. How does the workflow work, and how does it differentiate from director to director?
Yes, I really start very early, and I have to admit also, if somebody proposes me a project and the locations are already searched, they are already found, I refuse to do that. This is so much part of my work. So this is when also based on this research, I develop my work, but also the script might change. And this is, for me it's so important that I only work with directors who agree and think the same. And then when I go on a journey, like Maria said, we went to New York together and to Sao Tome, and I went to Bucharest. It's these impulses and these impacts you get from there that are so important for me. It's also, somebody asked me before about the kitchen in Unorthodox, where we put the foil on it. Mm-hmm. And I found it out during my research time for Unorthodox, that the kitchen, when it's cleaned for Pesach, that it's wrapped in foil so it didn't get dirty again. And I found it such a beautiful image, this shiny reflecting room. So I asked if I'm allowed to build a kitchen, because it was not in the script. So I built the kitchen, and finally Anna and Alexa wrote the scene for the kitchen.
Oh, nice. But also Tony Erdmann, because you mentioned you were in Bucharest on location scouting, but the script was not written there, right? No. So you actually came on board before Maren came to Los Angeles to write the script, is that correct?
Exactly. And so then I went on with locations and research, and the script developed. So these were two trails going parallel, and then it comes together.
So do you collaborate also with the director of photography and the director? And do you feel a lot of directors then choose their team also that they work? Because I've seen, there's a lot of directors you've worked over and over. So do directors or showrunners have the freedom?
Excuse me?
Do directors have the freedom to pick their team over and over also for collaborations?
Yeah, it was even for Unorthodox, the DOP, Wolfgang Thaler, who did also Farewell Europe with us, with Maria and me. We were the same team, and Maria suggested to work with us, and Netflix said, oh, no, normally Netflix is looking for the head of departments. And then finally they found out they could not, this was the team who was really working well together. So then we came to the job, on the job as well.
Do you feel that as a production designer you have your own style also, or is it a good thing you have to have your own style, or do you kind of have to be open to the moment more?
Yes, it's a good question. I'm a lot of thinking about that, and I'm not really sure about what it is, because normally your work should not be too visible. If you don't think about the production design, then it's good. And if you think nothing was done, was already there, then it's good. But as well, you choose between options. You choose how you make a room, the floor plan, everything you can choose. In the end, it has to be credible, and how do you make your choices as a production designer? I'm a lot of discussing it with colleagues, if you have a personal style or not. And I'm sure it's in this, how you think about the life of people together, of the society, it's all in there. And this is what I want to, my view on the world, I want to a little bit recreate it in there. Maybe I can explain it with everyone else of Maren. It's because she told me in the beginning, it's about this couple coming to this vacation home of his parents, and it has to be decorated in a very bad taste. And I did not know what, I was not agreeing with that, because this mother who had put all her love into the decoration, for her it's not bad taste, it's her taste. So I didn't want to make something everybody thinks, oh, this is bad taste. I wanted to have the kind of her pride and her tenderness into it. And so this, I think, was also my personal, how I approach my personal approach. And so, yes, we could find out something in the end with all these animals.
Earlier in your presentation, you also spoke about the Berliner Schule, Berlin School. Can you, for people who don't know what that movement is, can you elaborate a bit about that and the effect it has on art house films?
It was kind of not really. They even don't like the expression. They don't want them to be all in one pot together. But it's, I think, it worked well for them to be a little bit more stronger together. This was Angela Schanelek and Petzold and Ulrich and Hochhäusler. It was a bunch of people, and they said, we don't believe in the stories, in these comedies that were made in the 90s in Germany. We think film is really a visual medium, and it should be about the picture, about the image. And so it's more visual than literal. And they took out a lot of dialogue. Normally there's not a lot of spoken words in it, and it's more really, and the surrounding, the environment is as important as the actors. So the landscape is even an actor, so it's on the same level of importance. Mm-hmm. Can I explain it? Yeah.
So it's more a collaboration also, I would think, than on maybe a studio film where it's more a hierarchy. You've been here now for a few weeks, and congratulations again on the Ballhaus stipend. What does the stipend mean to you personally, and how is the stipend Ballhaus seen in Germany also?
In Germany, I think it's very new. I'm the second fellow, and I think, but even the name of Ballhaus is, to people normally who don't know, who are not so good in names in cinema, that means something to them. It's somebody we are all proud of in the movie scene, I would say. So if I only mention Ballhaus, everybody's who? It's already good. And I think it's a new thing that not the directors or the actors are awarded. And so this is very important to show the other parts of the making of filmmaking. and it could be a production designer, a cinematographer, a DOP, or an editor. It's all creative technicians who are taking care of the image that can be awarded with it. And I think this is I'm very happy that it exists, and it puts it a little bit more in the center.
And Villa Aurora, have you been here before? I know, some of your, Marin, some of your directors were here. Have you been here before? Did you know it? And Los Angeles before?
I have been to Los Angeles 30 years ago, but this was more the start for a desert tour. We did the things. We went to the Hollywood Walk, and so, our car was broken, so we left very soon. I have no deep memories from there. But I started. I read the biography of Martha Feuchtwanger, I think, 15 years ago, and I was very interested in her life here. And I was very interested in the turtles, so I'm very happy for that. And then I started to look the history of the Villa Aurora, to look it up. And when I found out it was built like a case study house in the 20s to kind of counter movement against the modernist buildings here that started. I found the whole story of the Villa Aurora so interesting. I could never imagine I will be here someday. So it's a great honor.
Oh, nice.
I feel a little bit like Martha's guest.
I'd like to open up to audience questions. If there's 2 or 3 questions from the audience, please raise your hand. Do you want to scream it out, or do you want to come to the front? What?
I have a question. How important is budget for you, your budget? Do you see it as a challenge? If it's a low budget, is it a challenge that you'd like to take, or do you see a progression in your career working on movies with bigger budgets?
Good question. It's hard for me to answer, because as I started as a filmmaker and I came really I produced my own films, I'm so much into this budget problem, I always accepted. I think maybe I'm kind of too fast to accepting it, because I know other colleagues, they fight for more money. But I know if you have an entire budget, where should it come from? So if somebody told me this is my budget, I try to work with it. But where I come from these no budget, low budget films. And the last time was the last series from Transatlantic. This was my biggest budget so far. And I had such a big team. And this was, I think it changed a lot with this big team. And I was not sure if it was better, because it was more difficult to put my hands in all of it. And so,
just to give an idea, the difference, because we talked about that yesterday, usually the art house team, how many people, and on Anna's film in Marseille, how many people did you have in your team?
For Unorthodox, we were 10. For Tony Erdmann, we were 6. And in Transatlantic, I had a team of 120. And it's also, for now, there's a big discussion in Germany about green shooting. What do you do with all these materials? How do you reuse it? And I think when you're on a smaller budget, you're always already reuse it all the time. In every scene, you take and I'm so used to it, it's kind of my style. I don't know if I can I'm too old, I think, to get out of it.
So can you talk a little bit about green shooting, maybe? Because I would really be interested in hearing how is the effect now, and is materials, are they reused, recycled, or how does it affect filmmaking?
I for me, it's a difficult topic because I think, as I said, we already try to recycle everything, and you do your own rules. You already bring it into a production. That's not that you. That's your private life, and you try to avoid waste, and then you produce a lot of waste in the production. It's not because that, and for me, it's not this the most difficult problem in a production. It's not because then you try to avoid plastic marks and so on, and you give a vegan buffet, but then you have these commissions of the different federalistic system in Germany, or maybe you are shooting an international co-production, and finally you have to spend money in the end for the post-production in Germany, and then the whole team is flying to Germany. Or so this is, I think maybe the problems are somewhere else. But anyway, it's a start, and it's good that it's coming, that everybody's talking about it. So it's of the daily conversations. It's everybody thinks about it. Mm-hmm. It's not like before.
Hi. Yes, sir. I was just wondering if you had an American film with production design that you most admire or love or was influencing.
Yes, but it's very far up my idol. It's K.K. Barrett. Do you know him? It's he was a designer for the last film. He was won the Academy winner. It was Her, and he did the Sofia Coppola films and Spike Jonze, and so this is a kind of. He had the chance to be on films that are not so. The Berlin School, as much as I love it, it's very realistic. It's very naturalistic, and this is why I was very happy to, for instance, to work with Kate Shortland and also with Maria and Maren. Maren, she's more into more, not fantastic, but it's more miracle in it, so that you can really create something that don't have to reproduce the real world. And he's so good in it. So.
Last question.
I would love to hear your thoughts on what it's like making films in Germany in comparison to other parts of Europe.
That's interesting, because I just come from a production in France, and I think so far I've nearly worked in every country in Europe, and it's everywhere. It's a little bit the same. We have our own systems, but we are all based on this American system. It's a little bit. It's not really a perfect copy of it, but you have the same breakdown sheets and everything like this. But in France, it was different. It was really like, they were the country who invented cinema, so they were very proud of it. And this was the first country I could not easily adapt to it. Yeah, but in the other countries, it's nearly the same, and you have to, to fight with the same money problems. And
I think we have to end, unfortunately. We could talk a little longer. Last question about Los Angeles. What have you discovered yet the last few weeks here in Los Angeles, and what are your plans until you go back to Zurich mid-September?
I saw a lot of things, but I think the most discovery was the light. It was really the colors and the light and this pastel palette. I think that I will take with me, and I'm sure I will put it in a new project. It's so easy to understand why filmmaking was started here. I'm so overwhelmed by this light, and I don't know how often I say, look at this light, it's this beautiful light. And it's not comparable to anywhere else.
No, even after 25 years here, still every night at sunset, it's like, oh my God, go on Instagram and look at the light. Thank you so much, Silke. Congratulations again.